Hello, everyone. Welcome to Soulprism Podcast, where we share bite-sized nuggets of wisdom for your body, mind, and soul to serve you, the emerging soulpreneur. My name is Tammy Mack, and I'm so excited to be here today. I am talking with fellow quantum human design specialist, Jaqueline Kent. I hope I said your name right. Jaqueline Kent? Yes? Okay.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And she is a multi-passionate mom, wife, author, speaker, coach, cheerleader, manager, and self-discovery expert living in Nottingham, UK. As a young girl, she always was the one trying to do things differently and often found folk coming to her with their stuff, looking for a sounding board or advice. As life evolved, this stayed with her. After several years working with happy couples in the wedding industry, in 2020, her business changed direction. We say pivots, and began to blend it beautifully into her work instead of just being something she did in her spare time. This includes her work helping people understand more about using their energy effectively, by getting familiar with their human design chart. She is not afraid of a challenge, being a real life survivor of many tests and trials, and now focuses her creative energy on her passion, helping more women live a life that makes them feel good from the inside out. Welcome, Jaqueline.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. It's so great to be face to face with you after we've been in contact for a little while, haven't we, online? And it's just nice. It's so good to connect, and yeah, it's great. So thank you for having me on today.
It's my pleasure, and it truly is the reason why I have Soulprism Podcast, is to really meet other spiritual entrepreneurs, soulpreneurs, as I call them, to share their message, to share our message, and to really, meet each other, because there's so, having a global presence and meeting people. I'm from Canada and you're from the UK. And yet since 2020, this world has opened up into such a more global presence, and being able to serve so many more people through the platform of the internet. And so to me, it's just absolutely fascinating. And I just love meeting soulpreneurs, spiritual minded entrepreneurs. So tell me, you're a quantum human design specialist. What is your energy type and profile?
So I am in traditional human design. I'm a manifesting generator. I'm a 1-3, so I love a rabbit hole. And I have sacral authority, so I know when something gives me that hit of, excitement, that it's time to actually do something with that. And learning that has been just epic, actually.
So you're a 1-3 time bender in quantum human design language.
Yeah.
If you don't know, I am a 6-2 splenic projector, or an orchestrator in quantum human design language. And one of the really interesting things that when I met human design was that I have been living a projector life my entire life, even before I knew what human design was all about. And when we were talking, you said you had a similar experience, and I would love to hear about that.
Oh, very, very much so. I mean, I've definitely always been somebody, first of all, who's always had things on the go, lots of things on the go. And I used to be one of those, I probably still am, that people would say, I don't know how you do it all. And so I think that's a very good reason why the language of quantum human design resonated so much, because I do feel like I squeeze an awful lot into a short space of time. Not just in terms of what I do in a day, but almost what I've done in phases of my life as well. And there were so many moments of clarity when, as I started reading through descriptions and watching videos and understanding more about it, it was just like a series of light bulbs going, ping, that's me, ping, that's me. When I learned, for an example, that I'm a 1-3, I was like, oh, thank goodness, there's nothing wrong with me. I really just had felt like, why am I constantly picking up new things, wanting to do different things all the time? You know, I've changed job and or career more than probably at least twice in my life. Had, you know, major changes in my lifestyle, in my relationships more than once. You know, life has been ever evolving, and I never felt like I was one of those people who just settled and stopped and that was enough, thank you very much. And I had this, probably what you would call a story, that, you know, that this isn't the right way to do things, and I was a freak. To be quite honest. So yeah, it was actually a relief to me to see that in front of me. You know, this is typically how this kind of person in a lot of ways does things. I was like, yeah, that just makes so much sense.
So as a man gen, you know, we talk about them being so very multi-passionate, right? Like, you know, starting lots of stuff, but not always finishing. Just always want, you know, and it's like, to me, when I think about the man gen, it's like the creative process. And always being in that creative process, always starting things, perhaps not always finishing, but going where their passion lies at that time. And I love your story of how you know, you've pivoted and changed so many times depending on what lights you up, what lights your sacral up. And I'm curious, what does it feel like to you in your body when you are connecting to your sacral? And has it changed since you met Human Design? So has your way of responding to life or making decisions change, or have you connected deeper into your sacral since Human Design?
That's an absolutely brilliant question. I was definitely receiving, I mean, you know, because it's there, I was receiving them. I wasn't necessarily recognizing them. When I first started getting like this spark, I was just like, what is this? It feels like my body's on fire. I was genuinely like, and like a really good example of this is going, what, 6 years back, when I actually connected with my husband. We're now married, but at the time we hadn't met each other. And like, it was like somebody had been switching little electrical pulses all over my body. It was just the weirdest thing, and I didn't understand it. And you know, my whole body was responding to this idea, and I was just like, I know that it's right, and I can't really explain it to anyone, so I'm not going to bother trying. I'm just going to get on with it, thank you. And so since then, so that was 6 years ago, and I think I went through a bit of a phase for probably a couple of years where life was a bit different, and we had some challenges, and we had lots of things that we were dealing with. And then I was I think I sort of took a little bit of a step back from doing all of the good stuff that had got me into that really beautifully aligned place, actually. So I wasn't meditating as much. I wasn't doing all of those sorts of things that had really set me up to be in the right place at the right time. And it was actually then when we came to 2020. So, you know, we all know what happened in 2020. And I went through a phase where I was just, you know, all I'm going to do is make sure that I'm taking care of me so that I can take care of everybody else at home and all of that stuff. And my energy just shifted. And so I began just doing things that felt right and not really questioning it. And one of the, not quite related to your question, but it's sort of related. I go off on a tangent, and I always say this is, you know, I've published books. I am a storyteller, so I do go off on tangents. One of my things that happened in 2020 was I started finishing half-finished things. And what was really interesting about that for me was that I just had this feeling like I want to do some things, but I don't want to leave a bunch of other stuff half done first. Feel the need to start tying up loose ends. And that was what I did. I was picking up projects I'd started 20 years earlier and like making my way through finishing them. And then as I came to learn more about my human design chart, I found that I have the 5342, the whole channel. So I was like, so I feel like what that was me moving into alignment without understanding that that's what it was. And there were lots of little things that happened then over time. I finding myself drawn to picking up things that I'd not thought about, including I did Gabby Bernstein's Spirit Junkie Masterclass, but I'd signed up for it, put it away in an email box and never looked at any of it, and decided to start. Went through all sorts of things to be able to access this program. I just knew I had to do it. And I was just, all of these things were waking up. Like I was really starting to respond. And that was like from one video that I'd seen on the internet. I was like, oh, I need to go and find that. And I just, was going like on this wavy path of, there's a thing, go and respond to it. There's a thing, go. And it was just immense for me, because I think it was because I had that little bit more freedom, because life was a bit quieter, calmer. There wasn't so many other distractions. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were plenty of distractions in life, but I wasn't allowing myself to be like pulled by them. And so now, more recently, when I've had those, I got to go and do that things, I think it probably has felt similar, but I've been more aware that I don't need to let it be something that gets me so excitable I can't concentrate. And that's one of my things. That was something that I recognized I'd been doing. I was so lit up, like buzzing, that I couldn't actually do anything with the energy and would end up being very unproductive in the end. And sometimes that's not a bad thing. But at that time, it was like, I need to, it's okay, I'm responding, and that's all I need to do.
That's a beautiful story, and I find it so fascinating as that, like, the one thing I love about human design is that our greatest, lessons and our greatest learnings about ourselves is through the conundrums of the chart. And so what a beautiful conundrum of being a manifesting generator, having that full channel defined. And so starting projects all the time, not finishing them, and then moving to a point where when the energy presents itself again, actually finishing them and feeling that sense of peace, right? Feeling that sense of inner peace, of completion. And so that you could create more space so that you can come into your next level of mastery, whatever, that was for you. And so for you, it sounds like to me that when you were completing those projects that you started eons ago, and with a time bender, it's sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes with a time bender, what happens is that all these projects that we started were not meant to be completed at that time. They're either meant to be completed by other people. I truly believe, manifesting generators start things and sometimes other people pick them up and finishing them. Or we move into this evolutionary process where the energy wasn't correct for you to finish it at that time, but with more wisdom, with more experience gained, or for whatever reason, things being completed at a later time really eases that stress and that frustration in your body, and just gives you that green light, or that sacral response.
It was an immense feeling of satisfaction to, I mean, as an example, a lot of the things that I did were cross-stitch things that I started when I was in my 20s. And it was an immense feeling of satisfaction to complete them. But also it helped me to explore my story of being somebody who never finishes things. And that was what really changed, like that my perspective on that just really shifted. I'm happy now with the understanding that I don't have to expect to finish every single thing I start. Some of them I just need to do for the sake of doing them. But I no longer tell myself the story, I never finish anything. And that was like a lovely gift just to give myself.
Oh, that is a beautiful realization. The gift of self-love, the gift of self-forgiveness, the gift of really seeing yourself as who you truly are, and not looking at, who it is that you are and finding the faults. Like, I never finish anything, and evolving that to, I finish things on my own time. right? Or I finish things if they were meant to finish, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of the thing with the manifesting generators is that you have so much creative energy, you need to move that energy. Because if you don't move that energy, you become stagnant, right? You really become stagnant and stuck. And with your incarnation cross about, you know, being of service and really coming from scattered, you know, from stuck to scattered, you know, sometimes, and really understanding that energy within yourself and your own system. That's so beautiful. For me as a projector, my experience has been very, very different, where I have always, everything in my entire life, and I have an open G center as well, but everything in my entire life has always been through an invitation. Every single thing, from where I work to where I live to who I'm with, has always been a recognition and an invitation. And I used to look down at myself because I always had this notion that I have to do it all. I have to be it all. I have to create it all. So always having this self-worth and self-value issues, because it's like, well, why am I not doing it for myself? And so the receptivity of when I recognize myself, when I have my own sense of self-worth and self-value, then I become the invitation. Then I'm recognized, right? It's not the other, it's confirmation versus validation. And so I've been a projector my entire life, but when I learned about being a projector and understood that it's when I feel that within myself, then my inner world, my outer world is a reflection of my inner world. So I love the difference of all the different energy types and all the different lessons that we get to learn when we connect to our energy type and into our strategy as well.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I think that was another one of my really nice discoveries when I kind of looked back and I saw my strategy playing out when I didn't realize that was what was happening. So one of the stories that I tell quite a lot when I'm talking about human design is I talk about how I got into teaching human design. And it was absolutely textbook. It really was. So I had, first of all, I heard about it. Somebody offered me a reading. I found out I was a manifesting generator. I thought that sounded really cool, but I didn't really understand or do an awful lot with the information. I was just like, this is so cool. And then I was quite busy, distracted, and I was planning my wedding and various other things happening. Life was quite hectic. And I came back to it a few months later, and I was just like a sponge trying to find out everything I possibly could. I can remember watching videos about deconditioning, reading things about the gates, reading, you know, or doing all the things and trying to understand all the things and not being able to piece it all together, but knowing that I needed to. And I think that was the thing for me. And then something came up, which was from Karen Curry Parker from Quantum Human Design, that was like, come and study with us. And I was like, oh, this could be a thing. You know, how many things do I do? Can I do? Do I need to do? Had a conversation with my husband who was like, are you sure? Are you sure you need to learn another thing? And I was like, look, I can't explain it any other way other than I feel like I'm being called to do this. And he was like, okay. And I said, but I respect, you know, your view and I trust it. So therefore, I'm going to go away and sit with it for probably about 2 days, not very long. Another email came in and I was like, I think I really need to sort this out. And it was just like, it was that thing where it felt like it wouldn't leave me alone. And so I'd envisaged it, you know, I'd felt this like, whoo, this feels good. And then I spoke to my husband again and I was like, look, I know what we talked about. However, and he was like, look, you know, go with it if that's what feels right for you. So the informing bit, went off, signed up, and it was just like, I feel so energized by what I'm about to do. And the more I began talking about it, you know, like I just basically spoke to absolutely everyone I met about what I was doing. And colleagues that I'd worked with who were coaches in lots of other different areas were like, oh, that sounds really, I don't know much about that. Oh, and I was like, they were all having like mini sessions that I was just making up out of what I learned in no time at all. And I know I confused people a little bit to start, because I was just giving so much information, and that is one of my things. Not overload, but I'm learning, but I am finding ways to do that in a calmer, sort of less scattered way. And it was just like, that was it. I just knew all the pieces were lined up, and when I look back, I was like, that's exactly what happened. My strategy, I was following my strategy without knowing what it was. And yeah, it was just amazing, because I'd never had that. I felt like I needed to learn more things. That was an actual validation thing. It was, if I have this certificate, we've all done it, haven't we? If I have this certificate, if I say I'm certified in, I don't know, lining up bricks outside the house, then somebody will pay me to do that and whatever. But this felt different. This felt very different, and I felt like that was why I trusted it more, and I trusted that process a bit more, because I'd never felt that. It felt like someone was going, come and do this over here.
So you felt the pull.
Very much, yeah, very much.
You felt the pull. I came into it very differently. I was studying shamanism. I was initiating in the Munai Ki, and this was a process I started like back in 2013.
Wow.
And it took me many, many years, because I did it in my own time, when I felt, like you say, the pull.
Yeah.
So I felt the pull to move into the Star Keepers rite, which is the 8th rite, the Star Keepers rite. And when I did the Star Keepers rite, it was just this opening for me. And there's something really powerful with the Star Keepers rite, and it talks about the new wave of prophets. And so when I met human design, and it being this beautiful integrated modality that was downloaded in 1987 during a celestial event, and it was so fascinating to me, because when I came into human design, it was a remembrance, because I studied the Hindu chakra system. I studied astrology. I've been, doing Qigong for 10 years. I've studied, the I Ching and Taoism. And, I'm huge into Joe Dispenza. And so, the quantum mechanics was, so when I met human design, and as a projectors love systems, because it helps us understand. It helps us understand the way that energy moves. Like I took it like fish to water, they say, right? Like it was just so much of what I already knew, and just putting it in this beautiful modality. But it's so fascinating. I'm always fascinated by how people enter into a new modality such as human design, because for many people it's because they are at a crisis, or they are at a point in their lives where they want that help, right? That understanding about themselves. And others come into it for other reasons, right? Like they're pulled to it. They don't know why. It's like a somatic response that they're pulled to it. And then there's others, like me, that it was just like a spiritual, it was a spiritual thing that was just like, okay, here's another layer of the onion. And so I find it fascinating. I just want to talk about one more thing, and profiles, because you are a 1-3. And so even listening to you speak, I really, really see the line 1 and the line 3. And in my archetypal language, I call the line 1 the creatrix, because the creatrix, creates from a foundation, right? She creates from her root chakra. She allows the energy to move up from her root and into her entire body. And the line 3 is the wild woman, because she forges her own path, just like a manifesting generator does at times, right? It's like, I see a vision, responding, I'm informing you to get out of my way, here I go.
Yeah, no, I enjoy listening to your own kind of language around it, because I'm always like, that is just so you, like, it just feels, it's just so lovely to have, this is how I see it, but also this is the way that it's more visual in some way as well, actually. That's what I like about it. For me, there's a lot more visual stuff going on there, which I really enjoyed that. So yeah, definitely.
my sun is in gate 41. It's the gate of imagination, the gate of dreaming,
Mm.
the gate of decrease. And so it really is, for me, I'm all about imagination. I'm all about, when you imagine something and connecting an emotion to it, that's how we manifest, right? And so
Mm.
the more that I can use language that helps you think outside the box or helps you connect more. Many people don't connect to being a hermit or a
Mm.
martyr or a heretic, and those were, their language, they do serve a purpose, truly.
Mm.
However, I'm always in the service of empowerment. And so
Mm.
when we change our language, and which is why I love Karen so much, is because her language is very empowering. It
Yeah.
creates a surge within you that you want to connect to. Even
Mm.
if you don't feel that you're there yet, you feel the possibility and the potential of connecting to that energy and being that. And so that's why I love using different language sometimes, because it connects to you on a different way that you get to imagine, you get to visualize, you get to see yourself in.
Mm. Yeah, no, that really, really did inspire different things in me that I was like, oh yeah, I like that. So yeah, that was great. The one of the interesting that happened for me in terms of figuring some of my stuff out was actually that when I started building the foundations for my coaching business, which was 2020, I already knew that I wanted to help midlife women. And so that, and again, was why I felt and I could see that human design really worked, because they're women that are stuck, they're lost, they don't know who they are. That was all my language already. And then human design came along and I was like, click, thank you very much. And it was just a beautiful blend of those things. And when you get that from just those things that have lined themselves up and are waiting for you, it's just magical, isn't it?
And I love magic. So you coach women who
Mm-hmm.
are, tell me a little bit about who it is that you serve, what it is that you help them with, and then if you have a way of people reaching you, or if you have a freebie or anything that people can
Oh,
connect you with.
yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, so I the way that I describe it is I help midlife women find their way out of limbo using coaching and human design. And I've only been using that language for a little while and it really landed. So I knew it was right. In general, the people that I attract seem to be women who work in some kind of caregiving industry. They might be teachers or nurses or carers, or somebody who has spent so much time thinking of and caring for everybody else, and their needs aren't anywhere to be found. And they don't know how to change that story. And some of that goes back to the beginning of my journey of like real self-discovery, which was in 2016. I was at the bottom of the list. And so I help them understand the need to really pay more attention to what their needs are. If they don't know what their needs are, then I help them figure those out as well. And then when they, are in that place where they feel like, I don't know, if I had a pound for the number of times I've heard people say, I just don't know who I am, then I'm like, here's how I can help you. And so human design fits so beautifully in that container of, these are all the things that are, so possible for you by looking at the energies that you have available right now. What's needed is, first of all, taking good care of yourself, because we all know that that's where it starts. But just having somebody tell you that, I know when that was said to me 7 years ago, I was just like, you have no clue, but still had to go anyway, thank goodness. And it was life-changing for me. So I kind of share my journey and how that evolved, and then bring that all together with various different modalities. We use card readings during sessions. I do a bit of EFT. We do some just various different things, whatever they need. So it's like a little box of magic tricks that I like to bring out and just go with what feels right at the time.
Well, the
Yeah.
line three, yes, I always envision the line three like a medicine woman. She always has a bag, right? A bag of her medicine. And this is the medicine that she's tried herself, and she
Mm-hmm.
has forged her path herself with all her trials and tribulations and all her lessons. And this becomes wisdom, and she carries it, and she serves from her bag. And so it sounds
Mm-hmm.
exactly like, sounds like you're in perfect alignment with your human design. Sounds like you are here as a gift to the world, to serve and to share and to support and to nurture those of us who are really breaking free from who we thought we were supposed to be,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and coming into who we truly are.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's about, helping women take those steps that they're either scared to take or don't know that they need to take, or they're just scrabbling around a little bit in the dark. And I help shine a light on some of that for them, and take those scary steps forwards, really. So actually, when it comes to reaching out, if you just go to my website, you can find the free guide by clicking on a link there. So that's good. So I can share the address for that. That's fine. So shall I do that now?
Yeah, so we'll share it in the show notes, and so that they
Lovely.
can reach you
That's
at your
great.
website or find you on social media, and that they can get into
Brilliant.
your energy, feel if you're the right coach, the right person for them, and then move forward for there.
That's
So thank you so much for being on Soulprism Podcast today. It was really such a pleasure to meet other human design specialists who are really sharing their service through this beautiful system. And so thank you so much. And I can't wait for the Human Design Conference next week, where
yeah,
you will be playing a very vital role as an online a volunteer for the
yeah,
conference, because it's not
yeah,
only just in person. I'm serving in person, but there's also the online venue as well. And so if you can't make it in person, you are more than welcome to join us online and see
yeah.
Jaqueline. All
Oh,
right.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, did you download your human design chart and wonder, what does this all mean? I get it. It can be super confusing when you first download your human design chart. That's why we created a short mini course called How to Read Your Human Design Chart. This is going to walk you through the basics of your human design chart, which is going to get you excited to learn even more about yourself through this beautiful system. So click the link below if you're interested in learning how to read a human design chart.